Hey guys, I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my September TBR. So if you guys weren't aware, in September I am participating in Becca's Bookoplathon. I wasn't actually planning on participating in any readathons in September, October, November because it's like grad school for me and I just didn't think it was feasible, but I couldn't not. Honestly, I really have been wanting to participate in this, and so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try it. If it works, great. If I end up failing it, like, it's not the end of the world. So why not just say I'm gonna do it, have a shot, and see what happens. So I do have 7 arcs to read in the month of September. That's because 4 of them come out on October 6th, and I was like, okay. So 3 of them come out in September, and 4 of them come out on October 6th. So the September ones are definitely priorities for me, so we'll see if they work into my roles, but I don't know. I don't own 2 6-sided die because I don't. I will use one on my phone, and yeah, so I'm gonna switch over and show you guys my roles. I'm gonna do all 5 of them right now, and then we'll come back and talk about what I'm gonna do. So let's see how this goes. Okay, let's go. Hey guys, okay, so we have Becca's Bookoplathon here. So I'm going to be using a 2-sided die on the internet, and this is going to be my person figure thingy. So let's roll 7. Okay, so that'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, a chance card. Okay. That's scary. Oh, my stars. Please, come on. My nails. Oh my god, why are these so small? An arc. Okay, beautiful. That's perfect. Roll, roll, roll. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A middle grade. Ooh, I haven't read a middle grade in ages. Okay, I can work with that. Roll 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Fire on the cover. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to think about that. Roll number 4, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Set in the present. That actually works pretty well. Then we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 500 pages. That's not wonderful. Okay, so I did my 5 rolls. It could have been worse. I could have gotten a double and I didn't, which was quite surprising. And I could have gotten a community shelf pick because in my community shelf I had some books I wanted to read but weren't necessarily any of the arcs on my TBR. Great thing was my first roll was that chance card, and it ended up being an arc. So that actually worked out pretty well for me. I'm going to be going with Crown Chasers as my arc. This is by Rebecca Coffin-Daffer. So it's about this girl who doesn't really want to follow in her family legacy in becoming the emperor and like being the kingship. I don't know if the kingship is like the name or if that's like the ship's name, like is this set on this ship? But she would much rather, you know, like not inherit the legacy and just be a explorer in space. But everything changes when her uncle ends up invoking the crown chase, which means that anyone of the like royal noble families can actually become the next emperor, and she ends up getting thrown into this mix and has to participate in the race, and she ends up finding out that there's a lot more at stake than she originally realized. So I'm excited for this. I don't normally read too many sci-fi books, but this one really did catch my attention. I'm excited. This releases September, my stars, September 29th. Then my second roll was a middle grade, and I don't actually have too many here with me, but I did get one that I was supposed to read in August that I didn't actually get to, which kind of sucked, but now I can read it in September. And that is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. So every year, these people from this town leave a baby in the woods for this witch because they think that it will like keep her from terrorizing their town. But it actually turns out that this witch is not evil. She's actually really nice and gentle. And what she does is whenever she gets these babies, she feeds them starlight and ends up giving them to families on the other side of this forest. The issue is that one time she accidentally feeds the baby moonlight, which then gives this baby magical powers. And then I think she has to end end up looking after the baby. So I'm really excited to read this. I've only heard amazing things about it, so we shall see. My third role was fire on the cover, and I was kind of like, oh, what do I have with fire on the cover? So Becca said, oh, I just realized I didn't tell you guys. If you guys want to know anything else about Becca's Bookoplathon, it takes place throughout the entire month of September, and so I'm going to leave her, I'm showing you guys the book already. I'm going to leave her channel down below as well as the links to the video so you guys understand what it's about. But she did mention that like for the prompt that was like water on the cover, fire on the cover, it can also be like in the name, or like you can really interpret it however you want. So I am interpreting fire on the cover with Blaze Wrath Games because Blaze is fire. So Blaze Wrath Games is set in like an alternate version of our world, where there are dragons. And every year there is a tournament called the Blaze Wrath Games that takes place and 16 countries participate in it. And we follow Lana. She is one of the competitors and she is going to be competing for Puerto Rico. So she finds out that a former superstar from like the Blaze Wrath Games has teamed up with the Sire, and this is a legendary dragon that is cursed into human form. And the two of them are now burning down dragon sanctuaries in order to get the cup to be cancelled. And so now she has to navigate an international conspiracy that is deadlier than her beloved sport. Very excited. I think this is also LGBTQIA+. Which is always great. And yes, so that's book number 3 and the second of the 7 arcs I need to read. Then we have role number 4, which was set in the present, which works for another one of my arcs. So we have Far From Normal by Becky Wallace. We follow Maddie and she lives in a town in Illinois called Normal, and she feels like everything in her life is just normal and plain and boring until she lands a summer internship with a sport marketing firm. And so they end up tasking her with repairing the image of a teen soccer star, Gabriel. She ends up actually kind of falling for him and realizing that he isn't kind of this rebellious boy that the tabloids make him out to be, but falling for him could actually end up botching her whole internship. So it's really short. It's only 225 pages. So I'm excited to see how this goes. And then the last one, role number 5, was a big book, a book over 500 pages, and none of my arcs are over 500 pages. After looking at my shelves, I realized that there were 3 sequels that I needed to read, and all 3 of them were over 500 pages, which doesn't surprise me. So those 3 were Muse of Nightmares, Thunderhead, and Kingsbane. I have actually decided to go with Kingsbane. Because I just read Furyborn last month, and so it kind of makes sense to like start this right away, because also the 3rd book, Lightbringer, comes out then I think in October, so I can like bam, 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 and then I can read the whole trilogy in a year, and that's always really fun because my goal every year is to read at least a trilogy a year. And even though I will admit the trilogy that I was aiming to read this year was And I Darken by Kiersten White, it may not actually end up happening because every time I do this, I end up not actually completing the trilogy I choose, and I end up completing something else. So I think that next year my goal is going to be to just complete a trilogy and not actually hold myself to a specific trilogy, because whenever I do that, I don't end up actually reading it. So But yes, Kingsbane is the sequel to Furyborn. Furyborn follows 2 different timelines. Rielle is our past timeline. She has control over the 7 elements, which means that she is part of the prophecy and will either be the Blood Queen or the Sun Queen, which means she will either be the destruction or the savior of their world. And then 2,000 years later, we follow Eliana. Her plotline is the fact that she is kind of an assassin who ends up making a deal with the Wolf. And the Wolf is part of this rebellion who wants to kind of bring back the old ways of, you know, back in Rielle's time. And so it's really interesting to see how they kind of align. There were a lot of things in this that I did predict and I was right. And then there were some things that I didn't predict and I was like, oh, and the prologue is technically an epilogue. You understand that like when you read it, that it's technically an epilogue, but it's written, you know what I mean, guys? And I read that and I was just like, what? So I'm so excited to see how this keeps on going. This is just such a crazy series to me and I'm so pumped. So these are my 5 books for Becca's Bookoplathon. 5 books is easy for me to do in a month. So even though this is great and, you know, Crown Chasers and Far From Normal are both 2 September arcs that I need to read, I still need to fit in the next September arc, which is Kingdom of Ice and Bone. This is the sequel to Beast of the Frozen Suns by Jill Criswell. So technically this is actually my set TBR because I need to read this one. And then I'm going to also show you guys the other 3 arcs that come out on October 6th that I would like to try and get to with all my heart, but cannot guarantee. The other 3 arcs are Hush by Dylan Farrow, Mistletoe Mr. Right by Sarah Morgenthaler, and Five Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. So I really want to read Mistletoe Mr. Right because Sarah Morgenthaler's first book, her debut, The True Attraction, came out earlier this year, and I loved it with all my heart and was like so obsessed that I'm so excited to read the next companion novel in this series. So this is definitely what's going to happen. I can't explain what this is about because it ruins what happens at the end of the first book. But basically this is set in a fictional town in Alaska where there is this massive tourist hotel that people go to, but the town really hates when the tourists come every year. And this follows Lana, who is the protagonist in the first book's best friend. Hush by Dylan Farrow is one of my anticipated debuts for the back half of 2020. This is in a world where people who have the telling have a certain magic and they are called bards because it is kind of like a speaking, singing magic. And 17-year-old Shay has lived all her life in awe of the bards. She thinks that they are just amazing. But one day her mum is murdered and is found with a golden dagger in her body. And these daggers are the signature of the bards. So she ends up going to one of the bard schools in order to demand to find out what actually happened to her mum. Like, why was she killed by a bard? And when she gets there, she ends up actually getting propositioned to join the school because she has the gift of telling and become a bard. And so she does join, but is now in this school learning to use her powers while also kind of trying to figure out what really happened to her mum. And then we have Five Total Strangers, which is clearly a thriller, and it follows this girl who gets stuck at her layover. So her layover happens and she's there waiting, and then her flight gets cancelled because of everything getting snowed in. And the girl that she sat next to on the plane comes up to her and says, hey, me and my 4 other friends, we're going to actually just drive, so do you want to join us? Because, you know, we don't know when we're going to actually be able to get out of here. And she ends up saying yes. When she gets in the car, she quickly realizes that the 4 friends don't actually know each other. No one knows each other. And someone is actually trying to prevent them from actually getting to their destination. So super stoked for this, really exciting. I think this is going to be really good to read towards the end of September, just before we get into October, to kind of bring in those spooky ooky Halloween vibes. So yes, that is my exceedingly large TBR, but I'm going to try my hardest. I'll try and get as many vlogs out as I can. I'm still at this point trying to upload 2 times a week, but it is starting to get a bit more difficult because when I stop reading as much, I have less content to put out. But you know, have faith in me. Please stick around. Oh, also, I wanted to show you guys, look how cool these new nails are that I just got the other week. I'm absolutely obsessed with them. I got them done in Long Island and they are just like, oh my god, I'm in love. That literally had nothing to do with this, but I felt the need to share it, so ta-da. And yes, that is all for this TBR video. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, please hit the like button down below. If you want to see more of me, please subscribe to my channel. And until next time, thanks so much guys. Bye!